Okay, our next keynote presentation, he's already moving up the stage for us. Considerations for leaders in their digital transformation journey. Okay, Unit 4 actually was an interesting name. When I first saw it, I thought it was a security company. I was going to see another set of
account,
words.
I will check it against everything.
Okay. Anyway, Dean here is going to answer 4 things, I hope. One is instilling the right corporate mindset, which is something that actually came up and down across through both sides of the forum this morning, both on the finance side and on the technology side, changing the mindset. The other one is adopting a flexible and sustainable technology platform. I guess that's one more thing. We are in the platform economy, so there's a lot more people going for let's leverage what already exists rather than building it ourselves, and then even more so maintaining it ourselves, probably the most difficult part of it. And of course, identifying and putting in place data first people or data first people, depending on which part of the hemisphere you're in. So Dean here is going to go over these things, and hopefully he'll shed some light into considerations everyone in this room need to look into as they go through their digital transformation. Dean?
Thank you, and I will try and get this through in the allotted 120 minutes. Is that correct?
Okay, time to go home.
Come on, I'm an American by birth, so I know how to talk and never shut up. So I will try and go for this. Let's get this on. Works much better if it's on. Who am I? Let's start with that one. I dream of being 40, but that's a separate issue in here. Look, as humans, we get to 40. It's a number. We start saying, what are we doing with life? We start talking about how do we get fit again. We go through midlife crises. We look at reinventing ourselves. And I wanted to talk about that, how that affects companies on that. My name is Dean Seif. I am the general manager of the ProSoft division of Unit 4, a longtime Singapore company handling HR and payroll. Unit 4 is an organization based out of Europe, 3,500 employees, 25 countries, and we work on HR, we work on ERP, we work on finance, we work on procurement, and we hit our 40th, and we started looking at what do we have to do. We're a technology company, and technology is constantly changing, and how do we deal with this? And as you sat here today listening to this, I kept hearing the same things over and over. I'm not going to tell you anything different than anybody else is saying. It's going to be the same things. COVID changed the world, and we reacted differently. You need to move forward and pick a vision and solve the problems for people, and you're not going to be able to do everything in the same day. All right, I'm done. But those are the most important theses. But one of the things we realized when we looked at this is that one solution is not right for everybody. You need to go out there and have pieces that fit together. So from us, we use this phrase called microservices, where we took our big applications and broke them into small pieces that you can mix and match, plug and play. And the idea behind that is that you can go out there and find the right solution without having to get a monolith. And I'll talk about a couple companies that I've used in my personal life that I think hit that in the process. But one of the areas I think we've all seen change a lot is the services economy and how much that has changed in trends over the last couple years as we go through it. And I want to talk about a couple places. If I look at numbers from 2015 to 2020, we saw globally the services economy took off and grew 30%. Now, these are pre-COVID numbers. The numbers aren't out yet on the same studies, but think about companies like Lazada. Think about companies like Deliveroo, how many people they've hired in the last couple years, how that has changed dramatically from that. How many people have a smartphone? Okay, you know that answer. How many people remember a Blackberry? I know I'm dating myself here, but how many people remember Blackberry? Blackberry was the king of the market. And then Apple came out, and then Android came out, and Blackberry died. Does anybody want to guess what my opinion reason why Blackberry died? It was the best out there. It had the best email system. It had the best connectivity. It had all the things you needed. except for one thing. RIM, the maker of Blackberry, decided what we needed. So they told you what the apps were, and you couldn't add them, and you couldn't remove them. Look at your phone. How many people think they have more than 100 apps on their phone? By the way, if you're not raising your hand, you haven't counted. Go out there and look. Everybody tells me I only have 20, and they go out there and they come up with 120. Look at the apps you use, the microservices you use. Are they made by Google? Are they made by Apple? No. They're made by Grab. They're made by DBS. They're made by Singapore Airlines. These microservices are personalized for you. So I think that's really important. When we look at solutions, you're not looking at monoliths. My wife has a jewelry business, does custom design jewelry. In case anybody's interested, I have her business card here afterwards. Did very well in COVID because people were bored and had nothing else to do. We put everything on Shopify, a platform. And I know that somebody from Shopify is here. They're probably in the other room while I give them a plug. But what I liked about Shopify was the thousands of apps. I spend more money on the apps for her business than on the Shopify platform to get it tailored to her environment. And that's when we look at digital transformation. It's not what I at Unifor come and tell you. It goes back to the piece, what are you trying to solve? What business problem are you solving, and how to get there? And how many people are struggling to find the right talent and hire them? How many people have a position that's very important to fill and has been empty for 6 months because you can't find the right person? Most of us have positions. Even if we're going through retreatment, there are positions with 1,000 people applying, and there's a position where not a single qualified person is applying. This is the challenge that we're facing today. How do we handle this evolving economy? How do we handle this technology? I got this new project, but I can't find the right people to do it. So therefore, and I come from Deloitte, I have to go out to IBM, I have to go out to Deloitte, I have to go spend lots of money and get the help because I can't find the people in this process. And part of this is about a mindset. One of the things that I saw when I came to Asia the second time 8 years ago, my first time was back in the 80s when I was young and didn't have gray hair, but that's a separate issue in itself, was this mentality that we have an organization, we're going to put everybody in the organization into dragon boat, everybody rows the same way. One of the things that we've learned in COVID is this idea that we are not a single boat moving in a direction, but we're a collection of fishing boats in an area working on it. And we can't have a monolithic concept. And I talk about microservices. That can be people, that can be processes, that can be technology. How many people have Grab app on their phone? How many people would say it's one of the top 10 used apps on their phone? Okay? Now, where it gets complicated, is it Grab Transport? Is it Grab Delivery? Is it Grab Food? Is it Grab Banking? Because that just came out this month on that process. It's a collection of apps that does it. How many people used to travel to Thailand or Vietnam and dreaded dealing with a taxi there because you had to negotiate and not pay $300 when you got into a taxi in Vietnam or Thailand? Anybody experience that, or only because I'm an Ang Mo? But now that there's Grab, I don't worry about having to pay $100. I was in Vietnam this year for work, and an American at the hotel was so proud that the taxi was $80, handed him $100, and the driver tried to only give him $3 change, and he caught him and made him give the other 17 back and only paid 80. I didn't have the heart to tell him that Grab got me from the airport for $6. The reality is this technology, when done right, transforms how we live our lives. We don't stand on a taxi queue for an hour on a Friday night in the rain waiting for a taxi anymore. How many people remember doing that? I do. I used to go to Harry's instead. It was cheaper to just go sit in Harry's and drink and wait an hour and then take the taxi from that process back in here. So how do we do all this with our limited number of people? One of the challenges of COVID is we had this 2-year period where nobody left. We couldn't get rid of them and nobody wanted to leave. Post-COVID, we have this shuffle going on and people are getting smarter and demanding more. How many people remember when it was a personnel department payroll department. Then it became a personnel department. Then it became an HR department. Then it became an HCM department. And now the newest one, HXM, Human Experience Management. Okay? Sounds the same. There's a difference. Take away the H. Are your employees resources or are they capital? And this is a fundamental difference on an organization. This goes back to the training and enablement. Are you going to invest in them? Because if you're not, they're going to find somebody else who's going to invest. And then where does your project go? There's not a straight line to the end. These are all pieces that if you can't get all the legs of the table, it's going to wobble. So you can have a vision where you want to go, but you don't have the right people, there is nothing you can do on this. And this causes a problem. This leads us to a disconnection. How many people feel disconnected, and that's technology and people, sometimes feel disconnected at work, that you're a hamster on a wheel running in circles and getting nowhere? I understand if your boss is next to you, you can't nod yes. But, I could see who's sitting here by themselves without any coworkers on that. So in 2018, a study came out that said we spend 40% of our day doing basic tasks, email, managing transactional stuff. How many people think that that is a wrong number? How many people think it's closer to 60, 70, 80% of the day just doing the little stuff out there? That's a reality on this. So I also think this one is low. 58% of people feel that they're swamped at work. According to a study from World Workers that Gallup came out this year, 60% of people are finding themselves emotionally detached from work, and 19%, 1 in 5, so you're sitting at a table with typically 5 or 6 people, so look around, pick which one that is miserable at work in their process. Now, this is important because Gallup also in that same study said companies with engaged workforces are not happier, they're more profitable. 23% more profitable. That's a fundamental thing. This is why, as we look at digital transformation, I personally think employee engagement, employee satisfaction has to be a critical part of this. 23% more profitable. If you can go to your CEO and say, I have a plan to make us 23% more profitable, after they throw you out because they don't believe you, what are they going to do? They're going to listen and say, prove this to me. And this, and I guess I'm not hitting the pluses here. I'm talking on here, sorry, on these numbers from this. We're at the 23% more profitable. I suffer from a disease my daughter calls Y chromosomism. That means I have a Y chromosome. I'm a man. I can't multitask. So I can't click and talk at the same time. So how many people here suffer from Y chromosomism? I do see a couple women raising their hand in the back too on that. So this journey is complicated. It's not easy. And you're not going to do it in one day. And that's why people said they've started. 55% said they've started. Automation of tasks is pretty simple. Let's go out there and get it done. But then we start talking about natural interactions. These are the chatbots. I notice that on Teams now, it's starting to respond to things to me much better. But I can go out to I want a single chatbot, whether it is for HR or whether it's for IT. I don't want 17 chatbots in my organization. I want one that I can go out to as an employee. But I also want it to make recommendations. I go into Microsoft Teams, and based on the person's message to me, it starts giving me responses that are very different. Not just thank you or okay, but that makes sense, or let's schedule a meeting. It's reading it and helping me figure out those pieces. And we need real-time data. We need to make the recommendations, and ultimately what we're going to need to end up is to make recommendations. The problem is when we say we've started, most of us are at step 1. Maybe we've gotten to digital AI chatbots, but we haven't gone all the way there. You are never done with this. This is parenting. How many people have a child who is in their 30s? Are you done being a parent? Now, this is Singapore, so you're probably going to say yes, but are you done supporting your child financially? In America, no. Well, in Singapore, no. You're 30, your child's still living at home, you're still supporting them. This never ends. You're not done as a parent. You're not done on your digital transformation. It is a journey that doesn't end. And that's something I think it's a very important mindset into this process. So let's talk about that. This mindset. That's the most important thing. What are we doing as an organization? We have to have a vision. We have to understand that technology is there. And I think it was Dave who said it earlier. It's not about the technology. I sell technology. It's not about the technology. What problem are you trying to solve? That's the most important thing. If you can't get into a whiteboard, turn off all your laptops, and write down the problems, you're not ready to have that meeting. The first thing you have to do is define the problem. That, to me, is there. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's an ultra-marathon. Ultra-marathons are those crazy people who run for 7 days straight and don't stop, and it's about how many kilometers you can cover in 7 days. Not doing it there. I'm a 1 km and I'm done, but this is an ultra-marathon, and that's something you have to remember. So I've got a couple quotes here that I really think are important as we think through this process. Rule number 1 in PowerPoint is don't read the quotes. So I'm not going to do that because you guys can read them. How many people here are okay in reading English? Anybody struggle on it? But look, if we can't change our mindset, we're going to be struggling. Philippines gave 48 hours notice and said, it's Wednesday. Friday's your last day in the office, and come Monday, you're 100% digital. We said, company, we've got 150 people, including our customer support and our payroll, which has to be in the office. How are we going to support this remotely? Not everybody has a computer. Some people are on desktops. Even if you've got a laptop, you get home, you don't have internet. Even if you have internet, everybody now needs it, and it's not fast enough. And you have 17 kids in your house running around. How many people have their extended family at home, and all of a sudden you're working here in Singapore and you don't have that? This is a real challenge, and you have to understand that this process is different. So let's talk about what are you trying to do. Digital transformation is going to cause pain. I'm sorry. It's not going to be as simple. We're going to go through this change management. It's scary for people. Somebody asked about multi-generational. Worked with a restaurant company who shall remain nameless here on a digital transformation project a couple years ago. They were in all 10 countries in Southeast Asia. You know what country they were most concerned about their employees on digital transformation? I'll give you a hint. It was not Cambodia and Myanmar. It was Singapore. And the reason was the people they were hiring to work in their restaurants in Myanmar were university graduates who were excited to work for a multinational company. The people they were hiring to work in their restaurants were the aunties and uncles. And the idea of using technology terrified them. So sometimes we think we're in Singapore and we have this great infrastructure, but understand that's infrastructure for the people in this room. It doesn't apply to everybody in the country, and we have to be cognizant about that. We are strong as our weakest link. Now, Buckminster Fuller. Anybody know who he is? He is a 19th century architect who invented the geodesic dome. So very fundamentally changing how buildings were built in the process. The world is changing. The technology we use is changing. Things are fast. We have to look at things differently. If we don't look at things differently, we're doomed to make the same mistake over and over. I'm a cloud company, so yes, I'm saying go cloud. Okay, let's be honest about that. However, I've made a choice in my career to go cloud only starting in 2003. That was a decision of mine. I saw where we were going with this. We all hear about data breaches. Do you know where the vast majority of data breaches occur? On-premise, not cloud. And that's because the money that's spent on security and protection. I was sitting in the CFO one, or was it in this one? I can't remember which session. They said the biggest concern is cybersecurity. That's where the spend is. That's because companies are trying to catch up. This has to be there. Think modular. You're not going to find one thing that does everything. However, that said, you do want to look at the whole solution in the beginning and then put them in modularly. Get the components that you can do. But if you don't have the end in mind, you're just going to have a hodgepodge of different things out there. Peter Drucker, management consultant from the 20th century. He was the one who came up with the concept of management by objective. And despite the fact that we have all these newfangled things out there and continuous performance management, how many people actually manage their companies are managed by objectives today? Okay? Let's be honest, that's how we're managing our businesses. This is the grandfather of the process. You can't do this alone. That's what he's saying. The objectives are your guidelines. This is find your mentors, not one person, find the many people who you can go to, who you can bounce ideas on. Get out of the rules. Look at Grab. Look at what they have done in all the components on it. It was brilliant in the idea of this. How many people have money in Grab Pay because they want the points? Grab is making money by floating your loan. This is a brilliant way, thinking about outside the silos, how to bring the pieces together, provide a service to the customer, and make money at the same time. Data, 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 data. One of the hardest things for companies is how many people work for you. I got multiple countries, I got multiple divisions, sometimes they're on different systems, sometimes they define employees differently. Many CEOs can't tell me instantly without going to their admin and taking 3As how many people work for them. Data, data, data. You need one version of the truth. Once you have one version of the truth, then you can go there. This is the one that I live by. This is the one that the staff hear me talk about all the time. Crawl, walk, run. To me, this is the one that I live on. You're not going to solve it all today on digital transformation. This is a journey. But the most important thing is not winning the race. You can't win the race unless you show up at the starting line. It's not, do you have the money to do everything? Do you have the skill set for everything? Do you have the right people to do everything? I said you need all those things. But what you need more is, that's it, I'm just going to go do something. Somebody mentioned it earlier today, I'm going to make a mistake. You don't get fired for making mistakes. You get fired for not trying things. If you're not on this journey, somebody else is. If you're not on this journey and they are, then it comes down to who's going to win the race. If you're not at the starting line, you have no shot at this. So know who you are, figure out what problems you're trying to solve, and then just find a way to start. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. You're a parent. How many times have your children made mistakes in life? That's how we learn. That's how we get better. If we want to get perfect, we're in the wrong business. There isn't a perfect way. So that's where I wanted to end this on here. I think we had some questions, but I also know that I'm probably out of time in this process.
We're out of time. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Dean. Dean, you should be an inspirational speaker. Come back to another event. Take over my job. Thank you very much, Dean. Okay. Dean Sif, and for everybody who wants to know a bit more about Unit 4, they have a booth outside, right, Dean? Okay. Thank you very much, Dean.